If you've used tools like Lovable or Bolt to build an AI app and launch it, then you know the power of AI coding tools firsthand. But what happens when you want to go beyond your MVP and actually scale to your first $10,000? You need a system, an actual AI coding workflow, and today I'm going to show you the system that I've discovered using this AI coding agent to help you fix bugs, ship features fast, and actually scale your app to its first $10,000 and beyond. If you don't know me, my name is Chris, and for the last 15 years I've been designing apps and advising startups on product and design, and I believe the next wave of incredible businesses is going to be built using these AI tools. And with that said, let's get straight into the tool and see how it works.
Build great product. Build great product.
So the tool I'm going to be taking you through today is a tool called Devin. Now, some of you might already know Devin, and they kind of shocked the AI world a little bit about a year or so ago when they launched their AI coding agent, which cost $500 a month. Since then, I'm happy to say they have introduced a pay-as-you-go plan starting at $20 a month, which makes this something that might actually be viable for solo founders and small teams to use. Previously, this was kind of targeted at large companies, large organizations with product teams and development teams already. But I think here that there is a really, really powerful workflow that you can use that incorporates Devin with a couple of other tools that I've talked about recently on my channel to actually make growing and tracking your AI app, once you actually start getting customers, really, really easy and super powerful. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can use Devin in your AI coding workflow once you have an app that is built and launched and can be used by actual customers. And so I'm going to show you how to use this just using my own app that I built for the Bolt hackathon, which is a very, very simple web app that I just built using Bolt. And so a really good starting point for this is if you've used tools like Lovable or Bolt to actually build your app, and then you've deployed it to a domain, you might have done that via Vercel or via Netlify, then you can start to incorporate something like a Devin into your workflow. I'm going to show you exactly why that is so powerful. So let's think about, you've got an app that is live. What do we want to actually be able to do with this live app that has real users and real customers actually using it? Well, we want to be able to do a couple of things, and there's a couple of things here that Devin is really, really good at that actually play really well with that. And so we want to be able to fix bugs. We want to be able to resolve any errors or improve our code. And we want to be able to plan feature releases and new things that we want to add to our app over time. And so this gets into more of like a traditional kind of product management kind of workflow, but you can even just do this by yourself on your own app. And so the things that I'm going to be looking at today are the integration with Linear and being able to track your features and your bugs, and how easy it is just to tag Devin in any issues or bugs or errors that you have to actually get it to go and amend the code. If you don't know what Linear is essentially a tool that is used for tracking things that you might want to do in your app. And so this would traditionally be used by like a product team to track things like errors and bugs and features and break it down into tasks that engineers and developers can do. But if you're working solo or just on a small team or building this yourself, then all we're going to use this for really is kind of like a dumping ground for all of your ideas that you're then able to tag Devin in to go and work in your code base whilst you do other stuff. And so the app that we're going to be using this with today is my Bolt Hackathon submission, which is a simple web app, which you can see here. It's called refs.design, and basically it's a kind of Dropbox for image inspiration, and also allows you to generate professional grade image prompts for AI image generators. So if you want to create an AI image like this one at the top here, and you don't know how to prompt to get that, you can essentially generate those prompts in refs. And so it's a very simple app, basically. You can log in, you've got your collections here, which is your set of inspiration, and you've got a prompt builder here. But I have an idea for this app that I want to build now. Now that we've got this basic foundation down, what I'd really like to do here is I want to build a feature where I have this, and I want to add a third link to the navigation, which will be like a canvas mode. So what the user would be able to do then is take any of the inspiration that they've uploaded here, any of the prompts that they've generated in their AI prompt builder, and actually use them on a canvas and start to connect to the image generation models. So I think we'll start off with ChatGPT image, just connecting to that via API to actually create imagery from the inspiration and from the collections and the prompts that you've already got in refs.design. So if I was doing that on a Bolt or a Lovable, I could kind of type that in and get it to do it iteratively. But now that I've got an app that's live and I'm thinking, well, maybe I might want to bring on a developer in the future. I might want to get someone else to work on this code base with me. I actually want to think about how am I going to track and manage those features, those bugs, those changes in my code base as I go in a way which is more visual and I'm able to kind of see what's going on. If I do that in Lovable or Bolt, it can be really opaque. You're kind of just prompting it as you go whenever you think of things. But sometimes as you start to grow, and especially if you get more customers, you want to be able to track that in a more meaningful way. And so I've got my GitHub repository for this here. And this is what we're going to connect. So we're going to connect Devin to the GitHub repository. And then I've created a project in Linear. So just go onto Linear, set up your account. I've created a project here. And what I'm going to use the project for here is to write my ideas for this feature that I want to build, and then go and get Devin to go away and come up with a plan, maybe suggest some improvements, and then start executing that plan in Devin with the AI coding agent. I'm also going to add in some bugs here because I do have Supabase connected to this project, and I've noticed there are 6 issues that need attention from Supabase in this database. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these over to Linear as bugs, and then we're going to tag Devin to go away and have a look in the code base to figure out how to fix them. So when you first go into Devin, you're going to see this main screen here is something that we're all very familiar with. You've got your chat window, which you can ask Devin what you want to do, and you've got your what mode you want to use here. So this is between like a more complex LLM and the Devin agent, and you can also ask it quick questions, the same as any other AI coding tool. But you also have here is your repositories from GitHub. So if you haven't set that up, you can just click to connect GitHub, and that will connect your GitHub account where you're storing the repository for your app. What you'll need to do is you'll need to set those up in Devin. So if I go to manage, and then we're going to add a repository to Devin, which is going to be this refs app. Let's continue with that. And so we'll add the repository to Devin. And what that basically does is it clones your repository and it installs all the dependencies that that project needs in order to run in your browser. And what's really, really good about working with Devin is that you don't have to do this on a local environment on your own machine. You can kind of just look at the preview directly in Devin off the back of your code base, which makes it super easy to go back and forth between code changes and the actual live preview of the app before you submit a pull request. And so this is just setting up your repository in Devin. If you're not 100% sure what to do here, you can mostly just click next. Most of these commands are pretty standard. So then it's going to install dependencies. How should we keep dependencies up to date? And if you're stuck at any point here, you can just ask the setup agent here as well. So why can't I verify the maintain dependencies step here? This button is disabled. And we've got the appropriate command sent back from the agent. So we'll just click update there, and hopefully that will update in our setup for this repository. That's set up that step. So one thing to note here, just going through this setup with the agent, is that it's actually already identifying errors in my code base, which I hadn't found before. So if you have built it on something like Lovable or Bolt, just going through this setup with Devin can be super useful because it can identify setup issues that you can just then fix and apply during setup with Devin. And there we go. We have our repository now in Devin's machine. So this means that we can now work on our repository directly in Devin. And now that you've set up your repository, it's going to give you this basic first command. When you go back to actually start a new session, you can select your repository that you want to work in this drop down. So I'm going to select my refs app repository here and use the agent, and then let's submit this and see how Devin works. So this is just but your basic kind of chat interface, and similar to other coding tools, this is then going to give you an idea of what's happening. It's going to then say what it proposes to change, and it's going to then ask you to actually confirm if you want to do that. So we're just and open a dummy draft PR with a simple change. So a simple change might just be a text change or an image change or something like that. So I can verify access to the app with the requested task. Repo access needs to check this for the lint setup, and it's going to make a simple change like updating the README or adding a comment, and then it's basically going through and it's doing that. So if you've used Claude Code, this works in a very, very similar way where it's telling you exactly what it's going to do and it's showing you the steps as it's doing them, as like an agent would go through multiple steps to actually figure out what it needs to do. And then you can see here, I'm about to run npm run build and then check status for this and finally do this. So it gives you a summary of what it's doing at any given time at the top here as well, and an idea of how long that's taken, and you can actually pause Devin from that as well. So you've got an AI coding agent in Devin, but what actually makes this different from Claude Code? Quick break in the episode to talk about my community for people who are building apps with AI and actually want to make a profit. It's called the AI App Builders Academy. So if you're building an app using Bolt or Lovable or Cursor or any other AI tool and you actually want to make a profit, then this is the community for you. Inside, you'll get access to a community of other builders, weekly Q&As and demo days, and my full Product to Profit course covering everything you need to know to validate your idea, build your app, and then grow it from your first customers and beyond. You'll also get access to all of my startup frameworks from my 15 years experience of designing apps and advising startups on product and design. So if you're building an app with AI and you actually want to make a profit from it, head over to school.com/AI apps and join the community. I'll see you there. Well, I think Devin is really, really uniquely positioned if you've launched an app to get it to scale to something like $10,000 a month and beyond, because of the integrations that Devin has and because of the ability for it to plan and work in multiple sessions at the same time. It's almost like having multiple kind of Claude codes in your code base, working on different features and different bug fixes. And I know if you've used AI tools like Lovable or Bolt, and even sometimes like Claude Code in Cursor, even with like a complex setup, it can get really easy to lose track of what's going on, what changes are being made, how the code has been changed. And so I think Devin is really, really good for this workflow of starting in linear. I create an idea of what I want to do. I create an issue for an error or for a bug or for a feature that I want to build. I tag Devin. Devin goes away and creates a plan for that. And then multiple Devin coding agents will work on different parts of that feature, and then they'll come back to you either in linear or you can integrate Devin with Slack so that Devin will notify you in Slack when a change is made. And the great thing about that is that if you are ever thinking about bringing on other developers or working with other people on your projects, it means that multiple people have really clear visibility of all of the issues, all of the history that you've created in linear, and also a roadmap that you might have outlined for the future development of your product. And they'll also be able to use multiple Devins to work on all these different tasks on your app. Even as a solo founder, I think this can be super useful if you are feeling like you do want to stay on top of the things that you're building in your app a little bit better. I think Devin is a really, really good way to do that on the pay-as-you-go plan. And so now we've got Devin running. We have this session which is connected to this repository. What I want to try and do now is basically go back and forth between Devin and linear to create a plan in Devin. And Devin, very similar to Claude Code, will work with you in this kind of interactive planning kind of mode to create a plan for anything that you want to try and do here. And so I'm going to outline a feature that I want to build and then go back and forth with Devin to actually create the plan. I'll put the plan into linear and then I'll tag Devin to go away and start working on that plan. So what I've said here is I've said I want to create an infinite canvas feature for this app that will sit in the navigation as a new section, and I want it to be an infinite canvas that users can drop any of their images onto from their collections and then perform actions basically off of these images. That's my idea for the feature that I want to build for this app. So I'm going to send it to Devin and then we can plan out this feature with Devin before adding it to linear and then tagging Devin to get it to work on that task. Another feature that is really nice about Devin is that you can actually message Devin whilst it's working, which won't interrupt its work, but it will allow you to continue having a conversation with Devin even whilst it's working on code in the background, which is something that is a little bit different to other coding agents as well. So that's quite a nice feature to have. And so now it's looking into the current navigation and image collection systems to plan the canvas feature. So we've got an idea for a plan here. So based on the current app structure, here's what I can see for implementing a canvas feature. So current image interactions, users click image to open a modal. So you can generate a style prompt and copy it to clipboard, images stored in this table in the database, valuable canvas actions. So drag and drop images from collections onto canvas, generate style prompts for canvas compositions. That could be quite interesting. Create mood boards and visual arrangements I'm not particularly interested in. Export canvas as an image or shareable link. I don't really want to do that. I don't think it's that valuable. Collaborative canvas sharing could be really good. Canvas-wide style analysis. I don't particularly like those features, but I do have some other ideas for what we could do here. So I'm going to put these back into plan mode. Maybe we'll keep one or two of these. I think this is where working with agents, even if you're working with Claude code, you still want to go back and forth with your project plan with anything that you're doing to kind of get the best output. Okay, so I've provided some more detailed instructions for Devin here. So what I want to basically allow the user to do here to summarize this text is to be able to select multiple images on their canvas, then click combine style prompt, and then have a pop-up which basically allows the user to enter a modifier and then create a combined style prompt using all of the images that were selected. So the idea for this is that I could basically create a prompt to generate a new image that combines the styles of two or more images that I've uploaded to refs.design. It might seem a little bit convoluted, but I think that will be super valuable for designers. So I've outlined that feature here. I'm just going to send it back over to Devin and then see how it adjusts that plan. It did give me a plan overview for the previous plan, but I've just said I wanted to change that plan. So you can see the full details of the plan here if you click view plan from that plan overview, and that gives you a full breakdown. So essentially this here is what I would copy and paste and put into Linear as my task so that I am tracking these tasks, and then when Devin works on those tasks from Linear, that is then going to be able to update Linear based on what it's done in Devin as well. So now it's just analyzing this and figuring out a better plan for the feature that I've suggested here. One of the things that I like about Devin as well here is that it does give you a confidence for its plan. So the confidence here is medium, and it says it's got the core implementation details for the webhook, but it does need to explore canvas rendering libraries and state management patterns. So what you can do for this is if you have a plan that comes back as a medium or a low confidence, you could actually then take that and go away and either create a spike. So if you're not familiar with what a spike is in development terms, that's basically like a research task to go away and find out a bit more about a technology. You could either create that in Linear if you're working with other developers, or you could just go and research this by yourself and then provide that information back to Devin in order to give it a higher confidence that it's going to be able to complete this plan. And so now it's actually gone away and done some research, and it's got confidence high for this plan. I can see the details of this plan. So this is what it's going to do exactly. So it's going to create a new database schema in Supabase for me. It's going to then implement the navigation integration with the new link in the navigation. It's going to create the core canvas components, and then it's going to do the visual connecting lines, canvas state persistence, verification strategy. There's a bunch of stuff in here. So what I would do with this, now you could either break this down into individual things and get multiple Devins to work on it. So, or we can just put this as a whole thing into Devin. So what I'm going to do to just kind of demonstrate this is let's copy the whole thing here. And it would actually be good if this suggested plan had a quick copy button. So Devin, if you're listening to this, just maybe add in like a copy to clipboard button here as well. I'm going to go back over to Linear and I'm going to create a new issue in this project, and I'm going to call it Canvas Feature MVP. And then we're going to add this project plan description into this Canvas Feature MVP. We're going to create that issue. Let's put priority as urgent, because we know that everything has to be urgent in order to get done. If you know anything about development teams, you'll know that everyone loves to set high priority on everything. Let's create that issue. I would say generally it's probably better to split these things out into separate issues. If I go to view this issue now, we've got a detailed outline of exactly what Devin needs to do to build this feature. And what I can do literally just here is just go tag Devin in the comment and say, can you start working through this, please? And let's get Devin to work and see what happens. And so you can see here that Devin has literally just immediately responded to my comment. I'm Devin, currently researching your task. I'll be back soon with a proposal. Please check back in 5 minutes. Track my progress in Devin space. Later, you'll be able to use this Devin space to start a Devin session and to create a PR. And so you can see in my Devin space that I've got this ticket has now been submitted to Devin. It's got the deep mode on, which is basically the kind of deep research mode. So Devin has a deep research mode, which is great for planning like larger and complex features, which basically will go away and like figure out exactly how to implement this. And so Claude Code is great when you're kind of working on the fly and creating these individual changes and even creating like to-do lists for larger and more complex features. But with Devin, you're basically just able to track all of this stuff directly in something like a linear and then work back and forth to actually keep on top of all of these changes. And then Devin is working in the background, kind of building this stuff as you go. Another super useful part about Devin here as well is if you come over to this deep wiki part in your repository in Devin, you actually get a full breakdown of your entire repository and it's all documented and built out for you. It even has visualization of the architecture, all of the core technologies that it's using. And so if you are building an app where you're thinking about the future and you do want to scale it, this is just a really, really good way of actually kind of creating all this documentation and stuff for future developers that you want to bring on to help them get familiar with your code base as quickly as possible using Devin. And they can even still use something like a Claude Code or the Gemini CLI or any of the CLI kind of coding agents, either in Devin or in local AI IDEs. But what Devin gives you is this kind of single source of truth for everything to do with your repository. So Devin is now ready, and you can see in this Devin space the amount of research that the deep research mode in Devin has done. So it's gone into technical considerations, recommendations, dependencies, state management, image data access, additional technical considerations, so optimizing for performance, implementation priority recommendations. So we want to do database migration first, basic canvas structure, then the navigation. So this is basically like breaking down this plan in even more detail to make sure that when Devin or whoever actually builds this, what we're going to be building is exactly the thing that's going to be best for our app, which is great. So now this has come through to linear and basically Devin has said that it's ready to go. It's given me the things that it's going to work on. And then what we can do now that we're happy with that plan is just simply click here from linear to start the Devin session, building this thing, and it's going to actually it puts all of this into Devin, and just make sure the repo is selected there, and then all we're going to do is select start Devin, and that's going to create a new session where it's going to start working through this feature. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave Devin to actually go and work through this, and then I'm going to come back when it's finished and see what it has created. Now this might take half an hour, several hours. This is an agent basically working in the background to build out all of this code. And so it's a complete collaborative place for everyone to be working on your code base. And you can see here, Devin is actually telling me exactly what it's doing as it's doing it. So I'm now examining the database migration file and existing modal components to understand their structure and implementation. And then after it's done this, it's going to create a pull request to the repository in GitHub so that it can merge all of that code into our repository and get that live on the actual app. And if you click this progress view here as well, on the right hand side, you can actually even see exactly what Devin is working on, and you can go back through the history to see what it's added to the code as well. So if you do actually want to check the code and the things that your coding agent is doing, then you get a true visibility of all the changes that are being made here as well. And so if something breaks or if something doesn't work and you're not sure how to diagnose that problem, if you're using a coding agent like Claude Code or Lovable or any of these other tools, you're not going to get visibility of that. But what you do get visibility with in Devin is to go back through and see where the problem might have occurred and actually help to fix that issue. So with that said, let's just leave Devin to work, and then I'll come back here tomorrow and see what Devin has built and how it actually works. So I've come back to Devin to see what it has done, and it actually only worked from 5:20 p.m. to 5:38. So it only works for 18 minutes on this task, on this canvas feature that we've built in this app. But you can see the canvas feature MVP implementation has been done. This is the number of lines of code that it has added and the number that it's removed. And if you click on see details, you can see more details of this here, and that will just take a little while to load. We'll have a look at that in a second. And you can also see a summary of the work that Devin has done at the bottom here as well as a deploy preview. So if I click on that link, I can open up a preview of what Devin has built, and you can see here that it's added that canvas link to the navigation as we have asked it to do in the feature from Linear. If I click on canvas, you've got your canvas functionality here. Now it has messed up some of the styling, so it's not using some of the button styles that I've built in for refs.design, and also it hasn't kept the navigation here. So I'm going to go back to Devin and actually ask it to make these changes later to make this more in line with what I wanted to do. You can see your collection on the left and your image library, and it has a search, and you can drag these images onto your canvas. Devin has told me here, so I don't get confused about why this isn't working, that I do need to apply the database migration first before the canvas functionality works, and it has given me a link to that SQL file there that I can just run inside Supabase. And if you don't know how any of that stuff works, you can just turn on the ask mode in Devin and get it to answer that question for you and give you steps to actually get that into your Supabase database, because that is a difference here where if you're working with Lovable or Bolt and you've connected that to Supabase, it will make those changes for you in Supabase, whereas using a tool like Devin or Claude Code, you are going to have to do that database stuff yourself, but you can just ask it how to do it. And if I have a look here in the code, you can see it's highlighted where Devin has made changes. So this is all the stuff that Devin has added and the stuff that Devin has removed in red. One of the great things about Devin is that you do get this big list of all of the things that Devin has done to get to that point. So whereas with Claude Code, it's running in the terminal, you don't have this history saved. You will see roughly what Claude Code is doing, but you won't get these individual points called out that I can then click on and actually see in the timeline of all of these tasks exactly what Devin has done at every step, like I mentioned before. And you can also see here that Devin has actually submitted a pull request to the GitHub repository as well. So if I go over to my GitHub repository here, go to pull requests, I can see that Canvas feature MVP implementation has been submitted as a pull request. So I can go into that pull request, review what Devin has done. So it's told me, here's the things that I need to do to test it. Checklist for human, that's me. So the critical things, high priority testing and then medium priority testing. And Devin goes so far in detail into like adding all of the things that it's done here. And this is super useful if you are planning on bringing on other developers onto your team to work on this app in the future. You get a visualization of the architecture, all of the notes about what Devin has done here as well. So I can go back into this at any point in the future and see everything documented and exactly what has happened to my app, which is what you're not going to get if you're working on it in something like Claude Code. Typically, if I'm working in code and using something like Claude Code or writing code myself and submitting a pull request, I would have to do this myself, or you could get Claude Code to write it in like a markdown file and copy it over. But the benefit that you'll get with Devin is that it's going to add all of that detail onto your pull request already, and then in Linear you can see that it's come into Linear onto this issue that I've created, and it's added all of the same information here onto the Linear ticket as well. So I've got all of that information. So once I apply the database migration to Supabase, I can then go into this deploy preview and then test that functionality from the canvas up here. I'm going to make a list of changes that I want Devin to go away and make, and then I'll just basically put that. I can either add that as a comment on the Linear issue here to say, oh, I've seen this, I've tested this, this is what happens, and can you make these changes? Or I can just go into Slack and just tag Devin at Devin and then tell it what I want it to do in Slack as well. So if you're working on a team with multiple people, everyone can kind of see what Devin is working on at any given time and start new Devin sessions to kind of work on this collaboratively. And that's really where the benefit of using something like Devin is over a command line interface like Claude Code or Gemini CLI, especially when you start to grow from just a solo founder to multiple people on a team. And then one other thing that I do want to mention here as well is that if you do still want to use something like a Claude Code or a Gemini CLI, obviously you can still do that on any other IDE as you would do normally, and then submit a pull request back to the GitHub repository and just document those changes on Linear. And then Devin will stay up to date with all of the other changes that you're making on this as well. And with that said, let's get into my final thoughts on Devin, whether it's something that you should be using and whether it's actually worthwhile for a solo founder to start using in your projects. So that was my breakdown of how you can use Devin as a solo founder or a small team to scale your app from $0 to $10,000 and beyond. And I think where Devin really shines is in that documentation and collaboration piece. So it's an AI coding agent that gives you multiple coding agent sessions, allows you to document everything in Linear and connect Linear directly to your coding agents, and it also allows you to chat with Devin via Slack and via Linear to get it to start working on tasks in the background for you, and it documents every single thing that it's doing so that you can go back at any point and see anything that it's done in order to debug and fix anything that you need to in your code base. Now, I wouldn't recommend Devin if you're just going from your idea to building your first prototype or building a simple web app. There are definitely other tools out there that are better for that. But if you have built an app, if you have launched something, if you are starting to get your first customers, and if you are starting to consider bringing on other developers to work on your project, then Devin is definitely a tool that you should absolutely be considering, just in order to keep all of your features, your bugs, and everything kind of tracked and in one place, and so that Devin can be working on that in the background whilst you work on other parts of your code. Now, if you want to get started with Devin, all you need to do is just go over to devin.ai and set up your account, and they have just introduced their pay-as-you-go plan, which is from as little as $20 per month. And so if you're growing an app and you have a small team, or you're just working by yourself and you're starting to get your first customers, then I would highly recommend you check Devin out and give it a go. But as always with all of these AI coding tools, a lot of the time it comes down to just choosing the right tool for you and not necessarily having to go with whatever the best tool is in the market. And I think Devin has a really clear and specific use case where it can work really well. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can get all of my startup and app building frameworks if you go over to buildgreatproducts.com and sign up for my newsletter. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Build great products. Build great products.